Hello everyone and welcome to a very special one-off show here on Wallingford Radio. My name's Liam O'Brien and I'm joined on this side of the table by Richard Strange, presenter of our 80s 90s show. Rich, when are you on?
We are on every Wednesday night from 7 o'clock till 10 o'clock.
Here on Wallingford Radio.
Indeed.
And we're also joined across the table by none other than Right Said Fred themselves.
Hello.
Fred and Rich.
Themselves.
Hi, how are you?
Exactly.
Very well, thank you.
That's us.
Gentlemen, hello and welcome to our little community radio station.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Yeah, good to be here.
Thank you.
We understand the reason you're in Wallingford is your own business, working with a local company,
Yes.
Plastic Head Distribution.
Correct.
And you've got some new music coming out, or re-release of some of your prior singles. What can you tell us about that?
Right, the album comes out June 2nd. It's called the Singles Album, and it's re-records and
Reimagining.
reimaginings, I think is the new
Yeah.
is the new term,
Yeah.
of lots of songs. Mostly, it's called singles because all the songs were singles, and we've done it chronologically. So we start with "I'm Too Sexy," "Don't Touch Us, Kiss," "Deeply Dippy," and we've reworked them in ways that we sort of suit how we are now. Really,
Yeah.
some of them are quite different, and some of them are closer to the original, depending which song. And the reason we did it, because I'm sure you're going to ask that, but the reason we did it is because
Why did you do it?
since the 2017, that's when Taylor Swift, we used one of our parts of our track of "I'm Too Sexy" for one of her songs. Then that happened with Drake, and then it happened with Beyonce. So we've sort of got we found ourselves with a bit of a new market of like a younger audience as
Young
well.
people.
These lovely young people.
Yes, who buy records.
And so we've decided to do it partly based on that, and also partly to give some of a couple of new songs on there, give them a new airing as well.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah.
Is there one that you think you've most drastically sort of not reimagined, but had another stab at?
Well, there's a couple of tracks off the sort of acoustic tracks that were on the first album. On the first album, they weren't acoustic, but we've rethought them through as acoustic songs.
Love for All Seasons
and
Those Simple Things.
Yeah. And there's a song called "Bumped," which was the first single off the second album, which did mightily terribly at the time, but it sounds really good, I think, as a kind of an acoustic-y kind of piano-driven song.
Yeah, we've done like a lounge bar version.
Yeah, so we've that was the, and also I think, as you know, Steve here, meeting with Steve Beattie from Plastic Head, and he was right to say that sounds that you can tap into now have changed to such an extent that these tracks deserve to be thought through and revisited. It's it gets, and also from our point of view, it's extremely tedious when people just go on and on and on about the original version. We've moved on since then. It's 35 or whatever it is years ago.
I'm very sorry. We just mentioned off air that I actually work in events, so I work with technology myself.
Yes.
Did you find that just literally the march of technology is giving you different options? And if so, do you think the re-records are what you would have wanted to get to if you could have done in the first place?
Possibly, I think. Yeah, I mean, obviously, technology's come on a huge amount, and the quality of sounds that you can access. That's one of the reasons we did it, I think. And also, with "Sexy," it's one of those tracks that, because it's been around for so long, it's become such an iconic kind of song. People think we're fed up with it. The assumption is that we are tired of it, and we actually aren't. And we wanted to do a reimagining of that track, and also "Deeply Dippy." It was fun. If a song's good, it deserves to be reworked in some way or other, I think.
Yeah, and we did we've done the same thing with "Don't Talk Just Kiss," and then other songs like "Stand Up for the Champions," "You're My Mate." We've sort of. We've not just embellished. They're all brand new recordings, and some are quite different, and some aren't. It just depends how we felt at the time, really.
Yeah.
Can I just ask, I know it's all about the here and now.
It is.
But just for a moment, go back to 1991 when "I'm Too Sexy" came out originally.
Do I have to?
I mean, people have to realise how huge you were.
Yes.
And it was, I mean, Bryan Adams was famously number one for forever.
Yeah.
And you were number two for like that whole summer.
That's right.
I mean, in any other chart planet, that would have been a huge number one.
I know.
And you were number one in the US.
US was, yes, that was. If we had a choice, to be absolutely frank, I would much rather it be number one in America than number one in
Exactly. It's a much bigger market.
Yeah, and also more.
is,
It feeds the rest of the world, America,
Culturally,
particularly back then it did. Interestingly, at the time with the Bryan Adams thing, they did an investigation in a daily paper as to who bought that record, his record. Why is it number one? Who's buying it? And they couldn't find anybody.
No one admits to it.
No one admitted to it. No.
It's a sort of hidden demographic, I think.
Yeah.
Like, sort of maybe middle class housewives and stuff. I'm not quite sure, but it was. I mean, to be honest with you, 3 months before I'm Too Sexy was released, we were both doing part-time jobs. I was both working in gyms. I was working in nightclubs. So when people said, "Were you disappointed to get to number one?" I was happy just to get into the top 10.
Yeah,
we were delighted.
To be honest, we just wanted to hear it on the radio. That's all it was.
Yeah.
We weren't interested. We did a chart position didn't even cross our minds.
No.
Not once. It was just let's hear it on the radio, and then that's it.
Someone asked me earlier to ask you, out of all the people you've met over the decades, is there anyone you've been starstruck by?
Not starstruck, but we met some lovely people.
Yeah.
Michael Hutchence was one of the nicest people I've ever met in music. And
I'm not easily starstruck. Paul McCartney was probably the closest,
yeah,
I would think. But he was really self-effacing and very friendly. So I didn't, that broke through the star thing. The only person I would have been genuinely starstruck by was Frank Sinatra.
I think so. Yeah.
We went to a gig of his, and we knew the security people, and they said if you hang around in the green room, sometimes Frank comes down for a drink after the show, and if you hang around, you might see him. But on that particular night, he just belted off. Yeah, so we never saw him. But he would have been the only one, probably.
Yes.
Is there anyone around now that you'd like to work with? I know you've got credits with Taylor Swift and Drake and such like.
Yeah, I'd like to work with
Producers more than anything.
Yeah, I think Robin Schulz is a really interesting producer.
Yeah.
And I like some of the who else to trying to think actually.
I should know the name. There's a band called Alfriston. There's a track called Mountaineer, which I really love, and the production on it is fantastic. Same with Glass Animals, their production is fantastic.
Yes.
So there are one or two, but it's more production than artists, I think, for us.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Also songwriters. I think Ryan Tedder, really interesting songwriter.
Yeah.
But production is as important as
It is very important.
instruments these days.
It's like editing a movie. Absolutely makes all the difference.
Yep.
So, gentlemen, we're going to be moving towards playing the remix or the re-release of I'm Too Sexy. Rich, you can take your finger away from the button. We're just going to set the scene first.
Okay.
So, early 90s then, during the research that we set up, I thought we'd Rich introduced the music scene, but actually what did come up whilst we were having a look was Right Said Fred wasn't your first foray into music. You were actually...
Oh, God, no.
By no means.
No. We've been on the circuit since 1978, I think. So we were gigging through all the way through the 80s, basically. And we went under the name of The Actors and Trash, Flash and Money and, oh, my God, I don't know, so many.
Did you work with Joy Division?
Yes, we did. We did a gig with them.
We did a gig with them. Yeah,
Wow.
we didn't work with them, but we were on the Suicide tour with a band called Suicide. We went on a Suicide tour.
We should have been.
But we were on a tour with Suicide, who were a New York electronica band, and on one of the shows, which was the Factory in Manchester, Joy Division were on between us and Suicide.
Yeah.
Wow. I must admit, I've got a little connection with you when I was reading up about you this morning.
Right.
You were in a film called Hearts of Fire.
Oh, Fred was, yeah.
Fred.
Oh, my God.
I was actually an extra in that film.
Where
Down in, where did they film it? In
Heaven?
No, it was in Wales, in Butlins.
I didn't do that one. No.
I thought that had been a strange coincidence.
Yes.
Yeah, very.
I did a few some shots we did in London, and then I went to Canada for about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And we did shots there, and I was playing. I was one of the guitar players with Dylan here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got a great shot with Fred and Bob Dylan. It's really cool.
I didn't get to meet Bob, but I did meet Rupert Everett.
Okay.
He was the one that was instrumental in getting Fred the job.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Rupert got me the gig. Yeah. Did.
Very sweet of him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
A small world.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing, isn't it? I know, exactly.
So, gentlemen, if we're back in the early 90s,
Yes.
Margaret Thatcher's just been replaced.
Right.
John Major's on
Oh, Lord.
on the seat.
John Major.
Rich, what's the music scene, early 90s?
Oh, early 90s. My goodness me. That was the beginning of rave, I suppose, wasn't it? I know my sister came back from Ibiza saying about this song called "I'm Too Sexy."
Right.
It was at number one everywhere and enjoying it.
Yep.
So
Well, this was a question, sort of set up the society, the music scene, everything else, and into which this song basically exploded. So,
Yeah.
Yes.
gentlemen.
It was spotted initially, I think, by an American. In terms of its introduction in America, because we didn't have our total budget for American promotion was something like $50,000. I mean, it was nothing. And he heard it while he was on holiday, and then I think as we understand it, he took a copy of the track back to America, and he worked at a tastemaker station in America, and that's why it broke. So it broke on import actually in America.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Which was extraordinary.
And you find it just... Sorry, I think it might be worth pointing out, despite my rapidly receding hairline and grey hair, I'm slightly too young to have experienced this the first time round.
Okay.
How much of a cross-cultural explosion was it? Was it just everywhere?
But it was.
Yeah.
We just didn't get it. We were in the middle. It's like being in the middle of a storm. You don't, you're right in the middle. You have no concept of what it is. And also we thought, for us, when we first heard it, we thought, well, this is quite funny and it makes us laugh. We quite like it. The idea that it would be around for 30 years and probably longer never crossed our minds for a second.
No,
not for a second.
And also, it didn't cross our minds that we'd sell records abroad.
No.
When we suddenly started getting TV requests from Belgium and Holland and then further afield, it was like, well, what the hell's going on? Because the record, there was no plan. The record was just put out to radio, so it wasn't like it wasn't set up. We never had a marketing.
No promotion plan. Nothing.
No, we didn't. We never had a marketing meeting. We never sat down and talked about an album. Nothing. That never happened. What happened was, Sexy went out on white label. But Simon Bates was kind enough to play it as well. Was Gary Crowley.
Gary Crowley.
And it had its own momentum. So from there, we were always playing catch up. The record label were not their fault necessarily, but they had never been a record label. So they were just rabbits in a car's headlight. They were terrified.
Yeah. Also, it was punters that made the difference. The reaction that Sexy got from DJs, from radio, from everybody, apart from the two people we've already mentioned, Gary Crowley and Simon Bates. It was a thumbs down everywhere we took it, everywhere. In fact, one record company guy back in the day, we sent it to him on a cassette, and he didn't bother to listen to it, so nothing ever happened. And when the track became so successful, he then glued that cassette to his desk to remind him to listen to everything that comes through the door.
Important lesson learned.
Yeah, exactly. So I think because of the reaction in the business to the track, we were caught on hop in a way.
Yeah, we were. Yeah,
we didn't think it was ever going to do anything. It was only when Radio 1 played it and the lights on the dashboard on the control desk lit up and we were called back in to do an interview and everything else. That's when it began to dawn on us that actually it was going to go mad. Yeah, exactly.
Well, we've got the list here. You said about had no intention of selling internationally.
Yeah.
Well, the short version is basically the English-speaking world.
Yes.
So Australia, Canada, the US, New Zealand, pretty much everywhere. Netherlands are surprisingly high as well.
Yeah.
Penetrated into Europe as well.
Yes, it was. The weird thing, Germany was one of the few places, strangely enough, that's one of our strongest markets and has been for years. But it was Don't Torch Us Kiss that actually broke us in Germany, and then I'm Too Sexy sort of caught up with it afterwards.
The same in South America. Don't Touch Us Kiss was a massive record in South America.
Yeah, so it depends.
And Sexy sort of piggybacked that.
Yeah.
It must have been a great feeling, though, not only to have that one hit, then to have another, and then another. I mean, in a year when you had one-hit wonders from Chesney Hawkes and such like.
Yeah.
You know, you really did have hit after hit.
We did, yes. I mean, for us, I think what's important now is the way the market's changed. Is that for us, hit record, the definition's changed. Charts are no longer. It's nice to be in a chart. I'm not saying it's not, but from a running a small label like we do, which is we have our own record label. What's really important is usage. So if you get a request like we did recently, actually, we get a request for a song to be used in a documentary or movie or anything. That is way more lucrative than having a hit record.
Also,
it's almost like charts really don't matter now.
Not so much.
Not as much.
No.
No.
Mick Jagger made. I mean, he was right when he said it. There's never been a better time to actually make music than now, but there's never been a worse time to monetize it.
Yeah,
and I think that's absolutely true.
Very true.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, you are here essentially on work. Let's not
Yes,
just
we
get
are.
carried
Yes.
away with the chat. So, if I could invite you just to introduce the re-release of "I'm Too Sexy."
Right, this is our re-record of I'm Too Sexy, 2023 version. And here you go.
Too sexy for my shirt, too sexy for my shirt, so sexy it hurts. And I'm too sexy for Milan, too sexy for Milan, New York and Japan. And I'm too sexy for your party, too sexy for your party. No way, I'm disco dancing. I'm a model, you know what I mean. And I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk, on the catwalk. Yeah, I do my little turn on the catwalk. Too sexy for my car, too sexy for my car, too sexy by far. And I'm too sexy for my hat, too sexy for my hat. What you think about that? I'm a model, you know what I mean. And I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk, on the catwalk. Yeah, I shake my little tush on the catwalk. Too sexy for my, too sexy for my, too sexy for my. Cause I'm a model, you know what I mean. And I do my little turn on the catwalk. Yeah, on the catwalk, on the catwalk. Yeah, I shake my little tush on the catwalk. I'm too sexy for my cat, too sexy for my cat, or pussy cat. I'm too sexy for my love, too sexy for my love, love's going to leave me. And I'm too sexy for this song.
There we go, a fantastic pre-recording of Right Said Fred's biggest hit, I'm Too Sexy, and they are here in the studio. Wow, that's got a much heavier sound, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, we like guitars, as you can tell. And I'd just like to mention Diego Rodriguez, who played the bass on that, and he's done a really, really fine job.
Brilliant job, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. It's got a very heavier, much heavier sound.
Well, it's what I think. It comes from performing it. That's when we first recorded it, we never performed it, obviously. So over the years, we've sort of grown to like parts of it and dislike parts of it, and that's what has driven the desire to rework it.
Yeah.
I think it sounds great.
It does sound.
I'm really pleased with it.
Yeah.
Really pleased with it.
And that's "I'm Too Sexy"
Yeah, it is.
2023,
It is.
released on your own record label.
Yep.
Exactly.
Distributed by Plastic Head.
By Steve Beat at Plastic Head. Yep, absolutely.
It's available from June 2nd.
Yeah.
June the 2nd.
Yeah.
This will be part of your singles album.
Yes,
It is, yeah.
It's that's the singles, a rework of all the singles, and also tracks that people won't have heard, stuff that we've done during the last, particularly during lockdown. Actually, lockdown was actually strangely good for us creatively. So there's tracks that we wrote and recorded during that period on the album as well.
So, what are the other songs we've got lined up to play as part of this interview? Obviously, you're going to be doing a lot of promotion. The album's going to be out not very long away.
Yeah.
Was Deeply Dippy?
Yes.
Do you want to explain to us why that one holds a special place?
Well, Deeply Dippy was our first UK number one.
Yep.
It was. We broke the mould. It wasn't a dance track. It was a hell of a job to get the song on the album. The record company at that time didn't want it, so we were in a position of strength. So we forced the record onto the album. And what we've done with this is we've done quite a few versions of Deeply Dippy over the years using piano. And we wanted to record a version using piano as a predominant instrument on Deeply Dippy, and that's what we've done with it.
Yeah, and also there's one idea which I won't. It's not a spoiler, so I won't spoil it. But there's one idea towards the end of the song that only comes up as a consequence of doing it to punters.
Yes, it's a vocal shift.
Yeah, vocal shift at the end. But it was, and also one of the things I remember was that all the stuff that we've done has never been threatening to anybody. That's what I've I remember when we did a thing promoting Sexy, a guy was walking across the grass to the car and dragging his kid, and I thought we were going to be in trouble, talking about sex and all that kind of stuff, how dare you, I brought my son. And he was just really complimentary, and Deeply Dippy was like that. It brought in a whole different market to us mums and dads and people who weren't particularly into dance music. It was a very...
It did cross over.
It crossed over a lot, yeah. And I love doing it. I mean, performing is really good fun.
So where did you record the latest album?
We were down in a studio called Masterlink in Guildford, near Guildford, and we co-produced it with a guy called James Welch. We used some other studios. We used Livingston for bits and pieces for the acoustic versions.
Yeah.
Livingston Studios, but mostly we tend to try and we try and avoid London. We don't like working in London, and so we tend to try and track down studios in the country that we like, and we also like Friary Studios, which is just outside Milton Keynes.
Yeah, you were just saying before we came on air how you enjoyed the trip to Wallingford today.
It's lovely through Henley, and it's so
very pretty.
Yeah, I mean, London used to be. There's an old thing. London is either working for you or against you. That's what London is like. And for us now, London works against us.
Yeah.
It's not a place where we choose to be particularly. So finding this Masterlink was an old riding stable. So it's in the middle of nowhere, and there's green fields everywhere, and it's just really, really nice to be there.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Inspired you for the album?
Yes, it was just we were in the mood.
Yeah, we were
really in the mood to just get cracking.
And we worked very quickly. We didn't sort of nasal gaze too much. We did what we thought we wanted to hear.
Nasal or navel?
Oh, did I say nasal?
Yeah, nasal gaze.
We didn't nasal gaze either.
I don't think we did that either. No.
I don't think I've ever tried that.
No.
Anyway, navel gazing. So we didn't do much of that. We just got on, and we wanted the mixes and the tracks to sound fresh.
Yeah.
That's what, and I think with hearing Sexy there, it's the first time I've heard it since we've had it mastered.
Oh, really?
I think it sounds fresh.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Out of the new tracks you've done, what's your favourite? Do you have a favourite?
A song called Spiritual War.
Which
we like a lot.
Which we're going into another studio towards the end of the month, just to rejig it for a single edit.
Yep.
And Spiritual War is about obviously what's been going on. And I think there's that. And Deeply Dippy is one of my favourites because I think we've reinvented the song. You'll hear it in a minute, obviously.
We've got a live version of Do You Feel?
There's a live version of Do You Feel, which was off the first album, which is really good fun. Great to do. We did it in Cambridge. And there was about 20,000 people, whatever it was. And the band sound great.
Yeah.
The band sound really, really good.
Oh, well, should we play Deeply Dippy now?
Absolutely.
Please do.
Please do. Deeply dippy about the curves you got. Deeply hot for the curves you got. Deeply dippy about the fun we had. Deeply mad for the fun we had. Oh my love, I can't make a head nor tail of passion. Oh my love, so let's set sail for seas of passion now. About the way you walk, a contact sport. Let the neighbors talk. Deeply dippy and Superman, and I'll explain. You're my lowest lane. Oh my love, I can't make a head nor tail of passion. Oh my love,
at your Spanish eyes. Sierra smile, legs that go on for miles and miles. Oh, see those legs. Miles and miles. Said, oh my love, I can't make a head nor tail of passion. Oh my love, so let's set sail for seas of passion. Oh my love, I can't make head nor tail of passion. Oh my love, so let's set sail for seas of passion. Let's set sail. Let's set sail. Let's set sail. Let's set sail. Oh, let's set sail. 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 Oh my love, I can't make a head nor tail of passion. Oh my love, so let's set sail for seas of
Another big sound on a re-recording
Yes.
of Deeply Dippy from
Yes.
Right Said Fred. And there's a little snippet of another one there.
That's yeah, whatever that was, I can't remember. What was that?
Love
Oh,
for
the-
the season.
Was it Love from Anyway,
No.
yes, that let's say bit at the end. That's the kind of thing you do when you perform a song. You these things come
feed
to
off the audience.
Yeah, you do a bit. Yeah, so I'm really pleased with that.
Yes,
sounds
as I
really
said, I haven't played these. They sound good.
It's great seeing your responses first time you properly heard it.
Yeah. I'm really happy.
Yeah, nice
Really,
and tough.
really,
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
And there's quite a rawness to it. I like that.
Yeah. Working with James Welsh at Masterlink was really good. Very constructive, and he contributed a lot. Yeah.
I'm a big vinyl fan.
Oh.
And I noticed it's coming out on double pink vinyl.
Yeah.
Certainly is. Damn strong.
Damn straight.
Even if you don't want it to, it is.
I will definitely be buying a copy of that.
Okay,
Boy, it's
excellent.
fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to hand you back to Liam.
Right.
You've got a couple more questions.
Go on, then.
Okay.
Hit me.
Well, nothing's quite so
Physical as that? No.
Obviously, Richard's just sort of covered the re-release of some of the songs and things, and you've got your new album coming out.
Yeah.
Well, it did actually surprise me that you got the songwriting credits with quite so wide a range of people, but obviously you're just keeping relevant and still out there.
Yep.
Yeah, we just we bury our heads in what we do and let other stuff. We don't. To be honest with you, we're not wildly driven to sort of bang on doors and do that kind of stuff.
But if it comes, it comes.
But if it comes, it comes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've been very
exactly.
fortunate.
Yeah, we've been very lucky. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, I mean, one of the other things that you guys have been quite involved with is basically just being vocal.
Yes, we have.
I did look up, Richard, you spoke at the Oxford Union.
I did.
A good few years ago now.
Yes.
I
can only
was that the first sort of time where you were more publicly vocal?
I suppose so. Yeah, I mean, anybody who's seen it, I'd like to apologise up front about the shirt. The shirt was a bad idea. But other than that, it was quite nerve-wracking. And Fred and I, we talk about politics all the time and issues when we're not working. And so it doesn't often bleed through into the music. Spiritual War, as I said on the album, is one of the rare examples when it does. But the adoption thing back in the day was important to me because I was with my partner, for Stuart, for 28 years. And if marriage had been legal then, I would have definitely proposed, absolutely. Stuart couldn't stand kids, so we wouldn't have adopted. But I think it's better to have two loving parents of the same sex than two parents of different sexes that don't like the child. Where the child is, I mean, love is the most important thing within a family, wherever that comes from.
Well, absolutely, and we touched earlier on the political environment when your first single came out.
Yeah.
But obviously, at the time, Section 28 was in full force.
Absolutely,
It was. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
a large part of your music career.
It was, yeah. It was. Yes, it was. Well, Stuart, my partner, he was HIV positive for the 27 of the 28 years, and so I had, in a way, when you're confronted with that, you have to either shut up, or you have to say what you think. And when people started scratching fag in the side of my car and spitting at me in the street, I decided that I couldn't not say anything. And also, I was very proud of Stuart. He was very strong and very sure of what he was, and honest and loyal and everything else. So it would have been disloyal to him and disrespectful to him if I hadn't spoken out a bit, you know. So but as you say, it was a very different time then, and very. You mentioned Margaret Thatcher earlier. She did many good things, I think, but one of them that wasn't was understanding that whole gay issue and the issue of civil rights. I don't think she understood that at all.
Yeah, it was actually quite a bit later. David Cameron.
Yes, well, he was the one who did the civil partnerships thing, which it's like not wanting to swim, but tipping your toe into the water, you know, the swimming pool. It's not really the whole deal. But in all fairness, he did that in the teeth of opposition within his party, and good luck to him. I think that's an extremely important thing to do, and he doesn't get enough credit for it, I don't think.
No, unfortunately, slightly. He called up some other issue. I can't quite put my finger on what it was. Was it Europe? That upset a lot of people.
Well, yeah, he wasn't. He was like Jeremy Corbyn. He wasn't consistent. You know, he was a pro-European, and when it didn't go his way, he left.
So wasn't there a property thing between him and his wife? Oh no!
That was Mansell.
No, that was Blair, wasn't it?
Was it Blair?
And
the house in Bristol. I think.
Yes, that's right. Sorry, I got that confused. Sorry,
absolutely.
Didn't Cameron give his hairdresser some sort of OBE or honours?
His wife's hairdresser.
Yeah, for goodness Lord, dear.
You guys mentioned earlier with regards to Richard and the music side, how lockdown had been really good for you, sort of musically.
Musically, yes.
Obviously, over lockdown, there has been a few other things that went on. There were quite a lot of deals, a lot of PPE that was going on, and you guys have been vocal on it.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, what happened? Sorry,
no, I was just going to say, I don't think we ordinary punters know the real extent of the graft that's been going on. Really,
you know. And we kind of got all that happened is that when lockdown happened, and I've been down what's loosely termed a conspiracy theorist since about 1999, 2000. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, I just think it's good to question stuff. And so when this started happening, I was staying at my brother's, and that's close to Heathrow. So about 3 days into lockdown, we're still seeing all the planes go over Windsor. So we thought, let's go up to Heathrow and have a look. So we did, and it was really, really busy in arrivals. And I thought, well, this isn't much of a lockdown, is it? This is a lockdown for people. It's, you know, for people to be told to lock down. So we went to a protest in Trafalgar Square. Out of curiosity, we just went there. We sat on the brick wall that surrounds Trafalgar Square to watch what's going on. The press spotted us. We had they took some photos.
Piers Morgan went bonkers.
And then it got in the press. Piers Morgan and the usual suspects, they lost their minds over us having the audacity to turn up at a protest. And we got them and a few other newspapers and usual on-air presenters did a character assassination of us and anyone else who had the audacity to ask some questions. That narrative has now changed. It's quite interesting, and you're seeing lots of people backpedaling. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Piers Morgan, Julie Hartley-Brewer.
I think Ricky Gervais has taken all his tweets down from back in the day.
Has removed all his vaccination tweets because it was all that's happened is that we're now being allowed to talk about it, and we're not claiming to be right or wrong. It's just that asking a question should always be
allowed.
Should always be allowed.
And encouraged,
Balanced journalism should be your default position. We haven't seen the balanced journalism in the mainstream press for a long time.
No, there are one or two. Alison Pearson at the Telegraph does a bit, but
but you've had to go on to podcasts to hear two sides of the debate. And that just raised our suspicion. So we haven't really, we say people spoken out. All we did was just say, well, is what we're being told right?
Well, we've often said, anybody, when you grow up, you're taught not to trust politicians as one group of people that you're taught not to take their word for gospel. That's it. You have good ones and bad ones, but generally speaking, you need to be a little bit cynical when you hear a politician promising anything. So it's extraordinary to me when politicians started saying, you must do this, that people believed it. I'm not neither of us are chemists or epidemiologists or anything. So we weren't coming from a scientific background at all. It just struck us as weird that politicians should be telling us what to do with our own selves,
with our well-being.
Yeah, that struck me as odd. Yeah.
Well, I think to be fair, as you say, quite a lot of stuff has come out since the time.
Yeah,
I did have a question I'm going to pose to you in a second.
Yeah.
One of the things that has really shone a spotlight on some of this was Matt Hancock's WhatsApp.
Frighten the pants off them, you mean?
He's
yes.
Yes.
Well, that's gone suspiciously quiet as well, isn't it?
The only recurring question I can get from everyone that I speak to about this is why did he give it to journalists? But there you go. Within which was that Chris Whitty, the chief medical officer, was actually making, you may well suggest, informed scientific opinions, which were then overridden by the politicians.
Right.
Politicians who also have no epidemiological background whatsoever.
Exactly. I mean,
That's true as well.
I think Matt Hancock is qualified as a mathematician, isn't he? I think
Economist,
that's
I think,
or an economist or something.
Something like that.
My problem was, I mean, I didn't know what the details of the Great Barrington Declaration was. All I know is that Johnson refused to look at it. So right from the beginning, it seemed to me that they were very keen on taking the opinions of a very narrow group of people, and Neil Ferguson's modelling. Everybody's been slagging it off from day one. So it was extraordinary to me. Something just didn't smell right, and I've used this example all the time. You don't need to be a cordon bleu chef to know when the fish is off. That's all it is. It's a gut feeling. Does this feel right or doesn't it? And it didn't feel right to me. I wasn't an expert in anything, other than people have the right to question absolutely anything they want to question.
Yeah.
You know, in an open and democratic society, theoretically.
Well, absolutely. That's the cornerstone of democracy. Is if you can't question anything and you can't hold your public officials to account, then is it a democracy?
Well, exactly.
Exactly right. Yeah.
We went to Oxford when they had they're doing the low traffic neighbourhoods and all this kind of stuff. Hasn't been put to locals haven't been asked.
No,
they've just done it. So the idea that we live in some kind of accountable, representative democracy is complete ludicrous. We have a PM who hasn't even put his name up in front of the people. He's not elected by the people. No. We are in a bizarre situation. He's up to his neck in investment in Moderna, and yet we're expected to take what he says as some kind of practical, logical, rational explanation for everything. He's as up to his neck in it as everybody else.
His suits are too tight.
His suits are too tight.
Can't be trusted.
It can't be any man. One thing I'll say very quickly: Drakeford in Wales
was the opposite.
Was the opposite. He couldn't be trusted either. No. So tight suits aren't necessarily a clue to veracity. I don't think. No.
So I was unaware, and we can't verify any claims about Rishi Sunak's Moderna holdings. Hancock studied philosophy, philosophy, politics, and economics.
But not medicine, strangely. Also, one thing
exactly right.
we both thought is that this conspiracy theory that gets thrown around, it's odd, I think, because it implies that nobody else conspires. It implies that only one side conspire. So do we seriously imagine that the government hasn't conspired with, say, Big Pharma, or that the White House isn't conspiring with Zelensky, or that everybody conspires? So this whole idea of the conspiracy theories belong over there to the nutters is completely stupid. Everybody conspires all the time.
Yeah, they do.
Well, I think the one thing is, though, is until it actually comes to light and there's evidence, it's a burning raft that you stood on.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Essentially, until any evidence comes to light, obviously, unfortunately, I have to say, the conspiracy charge that you're suggesting. I mean, until anything does become public, we have to take the position, and Ofcom suggests that we do that. That nothing's been proven.
Well, all right. We can leave that there.
We can leave.
The question I was going to ask you earlier, which may be a shoehorn, and please tell me if I'm way off the mark.
Yeah.
You said earlier when you were looking into COVID and you wanted to go out and just learn some of the facts, and then you were dogpiled for investigating.
We were, yeah.
What, or at any point, did you see that there was any comparison to? You mentioned earlier when with the HIV epidemic and everything else, where people just weren't learning and all interested in learning and took a position.
What struck me very early on is that someone like Professor John Ioannidis, who's the most cited medic in the world, was being cancelled. Peter McCulloch, was being cancelled. Dr. Robert Malone was being cancelled. Sunetra Gupta, Barrington Declaration. A lot of people, whether from a scientific point of view, other medics agree with them or not, they were being sidelined. And what made me suspicious is surely if you're actually really interested in finding out the risk and the benefit with COVID and the risk and the benefit with vaccines, surely you would ask every single person that you thought was relevant to that and had information for that. And the fact that these key people were ignored, I just thought that rang alarm bells for me.
You mentioned, excuse me, you mentioned HIV, and my partner, as I said earlier, was HIV for years. And one of the things that I realised when I read the real Anthony Fauci by Robert Kennedy was how in the early days of HIV, Fauci had sort of cut his teeth on this whole thing. And what dawned on me was that when I look back and the amazing amount of medication Stuart was on, we both completely trusted it. There was absolutely no question in our minds that the people behind these medications were doing their level best to find a cure. It never crossed our minds for a second that these people were doing their level best to make money. And I think one of the biggest tragedies of this whole affair has been the loss of trust in politicians, in medicine, in the pharmaceutical industry, police. That loss of trust, I think, is very dangerous actually, and it's going to take a while to get it back.
I think the police have got a separate issue, a massive mountain of their own to
also that varies from area to area, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
So the Met is one police force, the Wiltshire, so I wouldn't want to put it all in one.
No, I wasn't accusing them. I was just saying that there is a lack of trust in the police that you can see it online. You can see it when you talk to people, and it's not just through COVID. It's through things like when some of the LGBT stuff, and I think some people feel some of it's a little bit tokenistic, painting your car with a rainbow. There's nothing. We're obviously we've always supported LGBT for obvious reasons, but I think it's really important to the police. I think when the minute they went from police force to police service, for me that wasn't a good move. I want the police to enforce the law. They aren't there just to service.
No, exactly.
They should enforce the law.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a lot of laws are ridiculous, but that's just how it is at the moment.
Yeah, I had a friend who worked in the Met, a copper who worked in the Met, and he reckons 90% of his time was domestics.
Social care. Yeah.
Social care. Yeah. So I think there is a huge issue there with policing. And that I don't know whether you saw it, but that gollywog affair in the local pub. Somebody complains about this gollywogs in the pub, and so 5 coppers come and bundle all these gollywogs into a plastic bag and scarper off. It's ridiculous. Apart from anything else, one bobby would have done it. We live in a town of 33,000 people, and there's no police station.
No.
We have no police station.
No copper on the street.
There's no copper on the street. I have the only time I see a copper on the street in Windsor is when there's something going on at the palace. That is it. So you need to have coppers on the street. You need to have politicians who care about the people. I know it sounds really corny, but you do.
No, I absolutely agree. Could I just ask you just to quickly clarify with regards to the pub that was in the newspapers over the weekend? Presumably not ridiculous that someone did something, but it didn't need 5 coppers to
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a bit like when that lady was silently praying outside the abortion clinic and she was arrested by about 2 or 3 coppers. What it was, it's a desire to be seen to be operating within what we would generally describe as the woke agenda. So it's much more serious that there are gollywogs in a pub than if the old lady down the road is getting burgled. And it's that's the perception that people have, and it's whether it's true or not is in a way immaterial. The perception is everything. It has to be. People have to understand that their security and the safety of their property and their ability to walk home without being manhandled by somebody, those things are guaranteed. Those things are a priority for the police and politicians, not going after every pub that decides to make a complaint about a gollywog.
A doll.
Well, one of the things that would really help to possibly get everyone back on an even keel with regards to both government and police and everyone else would be a fairly effective local journalism scene.
It would.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good
It's
luck
been
with that.
completely undermined
Yes.
after several decades.
Yes,
Yeah.
it has. Yeah. Well, they're all owned by the same companies.
Yeah.
Same as radio stations, a lot of commercial radio, same as record companies. You know, back when we were first starting, we would actually press up or do our own copies of about 50 cassettes to go to record companies, and now you probably need about 3.
Yeah.
You know, not that they'd listen to them, of course, but so I think the centralisation of things kills individuality, and it kills the ability to make. We're big fans of regional radio because we've worked with regional radio very closely over the last 30 years, and they do a really good community service. But that needs to be reflected across all their work, and it shouldn't be driven from a central point. It should be driven by local people and local issues.
I think I feel I know the answer, but I'm going to set you up for it anyway. Do you think that your career and the release of, let's say, I'm Too Sexy could possibly have happened in the commercial setup that we've got now?
No.
I don't agree. I think it could, because I think I'd Be Sexy would break online.
Oh, it would break online, but not through the channels that it did,
we wouldn't get accepted by radio companies, record companies, or probably mainstream radio.
No.
But the way Sexy would break is like
PSY,
Gangnam Style.
Yeah.
It would be one of those sort of internet things. I think that's how it
goes
feels.
back to what you were saying earlier about hits. It's not about top 10 hits.
Not
it's
anymore.
about social media.
It is. It's about usage. I mean, the trouble with people, a lot of people don't understand is that to get a record played onto some of the major radio stations is very expensive. You've got to hire the right plugger for the right amount of time, and generally speaking, be signed to a record label that has artists already on that playlist. So there's some leverage. And coming in as an independent band, and that's why there's a band called Wet Leg, who are breaking. I'm not a huge fan, but I think it's really good that a band signed to a proper independent label are actually breaking through, and it's more power to them. It's a very, very tough gig.
It is, yeah. And also, the change that we've seen. We moved to London when we were kids to start playing pubs and stuff. And back then, every pub was a gig. I mean, everywhere you went, there were gigs, and there were sort of weird kind of little pop-up shops and all sorts. And London now. I don't know, if we were kids now when we wanted to go out and play live, I don't know where we'd go.
Very good busking.
It is a
We'd have to go.
market.
It is. It's and I think it stems from a complete misunderstanding and a kind of dismissive attitude right at the top. Many years ago we were sort of asked about how we would reinvigorate the grassroots of the gigging scene. And one of the ideas we had, and I still believe it would work, is if you're providing original live music in your pub, VAT's a holiday for that night. So beer's cheaper, cigarettes are cheaper, it's all cheaper. And it's a VAT wave. It has to be original music. You don't get it for covers, but original music. But I mean, even that, which seems quite simple, you try and get it past anybody. I mean, they're just not interested. They are just not interested. So there's a really fundamental misunderstanding, dismissal of the grassroots of art in this country in terms of music. And in the House of Commons, you see it. If I was to ask you to name a politician that you think on either side of the House, that genuinely cares about British people, name one. You see,
Liam, I don't think I could actually.
No, it's actually quite hard. I mean, I'm sure there's a few backbenchers that do.
I think Andrew Bridgen. Possibly.
But only because he's spoken out.
Yeah.
Quite often when they do get your trust, they usually end up letting you down.
Letting you down.
Well, that's the trouble. Isn't it?
So I think, but we could rattle on all day about this stuff.
Well,
I think once you're on the front bench, you've been swallowed by the machine.
I think you have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, one thing we ought to mention is that one of the reasons we are here is we've been asked to. There's the Agatha Christie statue that's going up in Wallingford. I think in September it's going up.
Indeed, yeah. It's a statue that's being funded by Wallingford Town Council.
It is.
It's
Fantastic.
a project that's being spearheaded by
Steve. Yep.
And it's going to be Agatha Christie was a resident in Wallingford
for 42 years.
Indeed,
I hear. Yeah,
amazing.
And the statue is her on a bench overlooking
that's right.
one of the local parks, as though musing on her next.
Exactly. Yeah, well, I was addicted to the the TV series with David Suchet. I watched every single one.
Yeah, you're
Absolutely, I used to absolutely love it. What I loved about it was the clarity of the story. You had the crime at the beginning and the solution at the end in an hour. And it's brilliant. So, and then and I think the Murder on the Orient Express, where you've got one person killed by many people who have all got a grudge against that one person. It's a stroke of genius.
It is, yes.
It's absolutely a stroke of genius, yeah. And Mousetrap, I think, is still running. I think it's still running in the West End.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, I think it is.
I've got one more question about
on.
the album. Are you doing any live shows? I know we were just saying about the difficulty of doing gigs.
I think, yeah, we are.
Odds and sods, yes.
Yeah, we're obviously going to wait and see how the album, because that will drive. Yeah. That will drive interest. We get our market over the last few years has been mainly abroad, Canada.
I saw you in Germany.
Cologne.
Germany last week. We were in Cologne. Yeah.
The UK, it's a lot of it's just, I hate to say it, but it's a lot of it's down to money. Can we afford to put a band together to do that gig? It makes a big difference if you don't have gigs running sequentially, because then your costs go up. So we're in the market all the time, but the numbers have to make sense.
It's only just now that we're sort of seen as viable again, if you like, because we were cancelled.
Yeah.
We were cancelled from 2020.
Yeah, we've lost a fortune actually.
We've had shows cancelled every single year. We've been cancelled from all sorts of different.
We had a movie cancelled.
Yeah, commercials.
Yep.
So it's only now that the narrative has changed, that people are going, oh, they're not quite as nutty.
Oh, they're still alive.
Yeah, and they're not insane.
Yeah.
So it's now we're seeing a change we're seeing a shift, but that's going to take a while to filter through.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's sounding great. The new versions are sounding brilliant.
I'm really pleased with it.
I'm sure we'll be playing them out on Wallingford Radio.
I hope so too.
Thank you.
Soon we've got a copy we'll actually have to use.
Yeah, once we've got a copy we can use.
Okay. Okay.
But fantastic. I think, gentlemen, you've obviously spent a lot of time in the studio. As we've covered, you sort of reimagined some things, used new technology to actually...
Yeah, big sounds and stuff.
Yep.
Bring some new sounds in.
Yep.
You have been very active and very vocal. You've got your website, rightsaidfred.com.
Yep.
And you've got an alert system on there, so if anyone does want to be made aware of anything that's going on.
Yep.
Your Twitter obviously has,
Twitter
I think, exploded over the last few years.
It's busy Twitter, it is, yeah.
And the album is singles.
Yes.
It's out on June the 2nd.
Yes.
Released by your own record label.
Yes. And distributed by Plastic Head, yep.
Indeed.
Yep.
And I really think we only left for us to say is thank you so much for coming and joining us.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks for supporting community radio.
It's a pleasure. Absolutely. Doing a really good job. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, our pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to getting that pink vinyl.
Yes, I know. That's really cool.
Yes,
it really is.
It's very, very cool. Yeah, I don't know why we chose pink. I've got no idea.
No. Exactly.
Well, Fred and Richard from Right Said Fred, thank you for joining us. And we're Liam and Richard.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you.